This one thing held me back from recovery. So when I was struggling, I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of errors, but this one thing really held me back. And it really hindered my recovery journey, and it was something I just had to let go of. And when I help people around the world, I see a lot of people try to bring this along with them. And every time they do, I don't see good things. And so in this video, I really want you to pay attention and really be mindful of this one thing to avoid when you're focusing on long-term freedom. Let's get it started. So before we get started, if you really like the stuff that I'm talking about, if you really resonate with it, if you want to know more, I would highly recommend to check out my Instagram page. I'm posting a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now. I post success stories all the time. I give these little nuggets of wisdom, and it's honestly the best way to get in touch with me. And typically, if people want to get in touch with me who aren't my own clients or my own members, they typically reach out there. So definitely check me out on Instagram. That being said, let's get straight into the video. The one thing that really held me back was this thinking that somehow I was unique. Unique for whatever reason. And I've met people all over with all different unique situations. Shaan, yes, I get it, but I've been struggling this long, or I really have this specific symptom, or they start using my own verbiage against me. They say, well, Shaan, you taught me about sensitization. I just think I'm just too sensitized. Is it possible that someone's too sensitized? They're like throwing that back at me. And they're always trying to find ways for why they're different or unique. And look, I thought the exact same thing. Even when we're guiding people through recovery, we have a very tight-knit community. We really focus on that. And even though you see other people, we dispel a lot of that just by being around people, right? Like, so for example, if you're struggling with DPDR, depersonalization, derealization, and brain fog, well, if you're hanging out with people that were experiencing that but aren't now, well, it gives you almost permission to know that, okay, this isn't a life sentence. So we've really built a strong community in mentorship for that. But even there, people try to find ways to think they're somehow different. And it's almost like their brains are trying to scan for, okay, well, why doesn't it work for everybody? What about this person? Is this person recovering? Is that? And they're always trying to find reasons for why they're unique or their anxiety is more intense than anybody else. And when I'm guiding people, I always tell them, you have to let go of this feeling of being unique. You have to let go of your uniqueness. You just have to. You can't have it both ways. And it really hurts my heart, to be honest with you, when I see people do that, because it's like their need to be unique sabotages their own recovery. And I see people cheat themselves out of getting better because they want to find a reason for why they're different or why they're unique. And it's really a shame. And as you can tell I get very passionate about these things because you invest a lot with people to guide them step by step. And, it's not just them guiding themselves, but, as coaches, as myself, we're putting a lot of work to make sure, so, if there's a roadblock along the way, we try to break those as far as possible. So you may think you're unique. You may think you're special. I assure you, you're not. You're really not. I don't care how long you've struggled with this. I've met people that say they've struggled for 20 years. I'm like, cool. I've worked with clients that have had anxiety longer than you've been alive. They got better. And they're like, yeah, but I'm different, but this, but that. And it's like, stop it. No, you're not. You're only trying to find reasons for why you're different. Why does that happen? Why do anxiety sufferers try to find ways to be different? Well, my idea is, look, anxiety takes a lot away from you, right? It takes your livelihood. It really does. Your zest for life goes away. And so, your life is very precious to you. So you don't want to be wrong about this one thing. You really got to be sure. And what if you're unique? What if you're different? People who are in this state, they think that thinking negatively will help them, but it doesn't. It's how anxiety stays alive. So when you are sensitized, you actually have a negativity bias on your own. So if I have a cup right here and it's half empty, or half full as I would say, you would look at it as half empty, for sure. Why? Well, anxiety looks at that. It's looking for everything wrong, right? It doesn't care about what's right. Think about it, survival-wise. If there's a bush shaking, if you're outside and there's like a bush and it's shaking, do you want to assume it's the wind or do you want to assume there's a tiger? Which one's safer? You want to assume there's a tiger so that you can run away, right? You don't want to assume, oh no, it's just the wind. Because what if you're wrong? You only need to be wrong once, right? And so when you're experiencing anxiety, you think there's an advantage to that. And I get it. Anxiety also makes you feel very alone. Shaan, I've been on meds for this long. Shaan, I've done this, I've done that. Shaan, this happened. Shaan, this, and it's just, okay. At a certain point, you really have to make a conscious decision. Do you focus on recovery or do you let your uniqueness keep you where you're at? Because whatever you believe, see, anxiety is very unique, right? It's like whether you think something or not. Let's say if you have something that requires antibiotics, some sort of infection, some sort of bacterial infection, yeah? And you take antibiotics, whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. It's still going to work. But with anxiety, there's biases. So if you believe something's not going to work, you're going to be right. If you think it is going to work, you'll be right. And so it's like, well, why does thinking have anything to do with it? Well, anxiety is not just physical, right? It's a lot about what you perceive as well. What you perceive as a threat. So for that, there is an extra variable involved, which is your own mindset, which is how you perceive the world. How judgmental are you to yourself? What's your own attitude? All these things play a role in anxiety recovery. It's different than getting a common cold. That being said, the mechanics are there, and the mechanics are the same. They really are. But there's just extra elements. And so if you think, it's not there, or you think that you're unique, well, you'll find reasons for why you won't, and then you won't focus on recovery. And it's very hard to see that, because you see people, I see people that really haven't fallen into it for that long, and they'll do things to make themselves feel unique, and then they put themselves in a hole, and they're like, well, how do I get out now? And it's like, well, don't focus so much on being unique. So what I would focus on is letting go of how you feel, because how you feel is, while you're struggling with anxiety, cannot be trusted. It really cannot be trusted. You're going to feel a lot of things. There were times in my recovery, if you guys know my story, you guys know I talk about this a lot. I didn't have, stuff like this wasn't out there. Very few people, underground people were talking about this, hands full of people. Very few. I only met two, Clay Weeks, Hope and Help for Your Nerves, which is the book, and then Paul David at Last Life. And, these were the only two, I met. I'm sure there was a couple more looking back there. I think Barry McDonough may have had a book back then. I'm not really sure. But I didn't find him. And, there was other people too, and I didn't know either. But, there were times where I was doing this on my own. I was figuring this all out on my own, and I remember thinking, why am I doing all this work? Why am I consistently waking up, pushing, feeling the anxiety, letting it be there, and just keep living life? Because I was so convinced. It was just so real. I'm like, dude, this is never going to go away. That's really what I said. I'm like, this isn't going to go away. This is always something I'm going to deal with. Why am I putting so much work into this? Why am I going out? Why is it when my friends are saying no, come out and hang out with Shaan, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it, even though I didn't want to, Why am I putting all this work in? And the idea is that, deep down, what was the alternative? Did I sit at home and tell myself, look, I told you, Shaan, this isn't going away? Or it's like, is there a certain point where you just have to be like, well, what other alternative do I have? And just let go of it. And now it's so funny. It's so funny that I'm making these videos and then I read comments about how, oh, Shaan doesn't have it as bad as me. And I'm like, man, I take that as a compliment, to be quite honest with you, because I was like, wow, okay. At that time, that's what I wish I would have had. But it also kind of downplays the fact that, I had it pretty rough too, it's obviously not a game of comparison or anything like that. But it's also like, the same feelings you have, people that have recovered also had those feelings. But they consciously made a decision at that moment what to do. And what happened was, as a consequence, was, they got better and they weren't identified with it. I have always found it weird that people identify with an emotion or a feeling or a state. It's weird. States come and go, feelings come and go. Yes, you're experiencing anxiety more, but that's because, there's certain reasons for that. If you just focus on a few things, your state changes. But you have to let go of that state too. You can't be identified with that state. You see what I'm saying? So I hope this video helped. These are the little nuances of recovery, things that I don't see a lot of people talking about, but are very real because I'm in the pits of recovery with everybody. I'm guiding people every day. I'm guiding hundreds of people all at the same time around the world. So I know what keeps them up at night, and I'm guiding them through it. So, if you want to be part of this community, if you want to focus on overcoming this too, and if you want to deal with these nuances and handle it in an appropriate way so you can focus on living, then, you can apply for mentorship. The link is down below. The mentorship, even if you're unsure about it, the video shows you in much detail actually how the mentorship works, what the results are, how do we do the things we do. We don't really hold back. And so, after that, if you feel like applying, you can apply. We have strategy sessions with people. They're free. Just to see if you're a good fit. I don't want to work with somebody who's dealing with a separate issue. We tell you guys straight off right away if you're not a good fit, or if we may not just be able to help you, or we may not just be the best resource for you. We're very transparent there. So the link is down below. I really hope this video helped. Yeah. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll reply. So see you in the next one.